This bloke thinks it's absolutely hilarious to grab one of those super serious, dead-still guards on the shoulder. You know the ones. Stand like statues outside posh places. He thought it was just a bit of banter, something to tell the lads back home. What he didn't bank on was protocol. Turns out, touching a guard like that isn't taken lightly. 1 second he's laughing, hand on the shoulder, the next, bam. Flat on his back on the pavement, wondering what on earth just happened. This is the story of Alex, a joke gone wrong, and the hard lesson learned when you mistake discipline for decoration. Before we get into Alex's massive fail, tell us where you're watching from down in the comments. Alex. Late 20s, maybe early 30s. He was with a group of mates, Gaz and Tom. Definitely looked like they were on a stag do or just a lad's weekend away. Football shirts, jeans, trainers. They'd clearly had a few lunchtime pints already. You could tell by the slightly too loud laughter and the way Alex was swaggering a bit, playing up to his mates. He seemed like the life and soul of the party. The one always cracking jokes, maybe pushing things a bit too far sometimes for a laugh. Gaz was the loud one, egging him on. Tom looked like the sensible one, already looking a bit uncomfortable, probably wishing they were back in the pub. "Go on, Alex." Gaz slurred slightly, nudging him hard. "Look at him. Bet he's not even real, like one of them waxworks." He pointed towards the nearest guard, Sentinel Jones, according to a small plaque nearby, though no one was reading plaques. Sentinel Jones didn't blink, didn't twitch, didn't react at all to Gaz's shouting just a few yards away. "Nah, he's real." Alex grinned, puffing his chest out a bit. "Just bloody good at standing still. Wonder if he gets paid extra for not blinking." He took a couple of steps closer, drawn towards the guard like a moth to a very disciplined, possibly armed flame. "Bet you wouldn't dare touch him," Gaz goaded, his eyes gleaming with beery mischief. "10 quid says you won't." "Don't be daft, Gaz," Tom muttered, pulling at Alex's arm half-heartedly. "Leave it out, Alex. They're soldiers, mate. You don't mess with them. It's not funny." "Lighten up, Tommy." Alex shrugged off Tom's hand, playing to Gaz now. "Where's your sense of humour? It's just a bit of banter. He probably wishes someone would liven things up a bit, standing there all day like a garden gnome." He mimicked the guard's stiff posture, crossing his eyes, making Gaz roar with laughter. Several tourists nearby frowned, pulling their children closer or pointedly turning away. A woman muttered "disgraceful" under her breath. But Alex, buoyed by the beer and Gaz's encouragement, didn't notice or didn't care. He was on a roll, the centre of attention, even if it was negative attention. "10 quid, Gaz? Easy money," Alex declared loudly. He started walking towards Sentinel Jones, putting on a bit of a show, weaving slightly, pretending to tiptoe sneakily. "Operation. Poke the statue as a go." "Alex, seriously, mate, don't!" Tom pleaded, his voice strained. "You'll get nicked. Or worse." "Worse? What's he gonna do? Bore me to death?" Alex retorted over his shoulder, grinning. He was enjoying this now. The buzz from the beer, the dare from Gaz, the nervous energy from Tom, the eyes of the strangers watching him, it all combined into a potent cocktail of stupid bravado. He genuinely seemed to think the guard was just a passive object, a ceremonial fixture devoid of any real agency or reaction capability. He saw the invisible bubble around the guard not as a warning, but as a challenge. He saw the impassive face not as disciplined focus, but as blank indifference. He saw the uniform not as a symbol of authority and training, but as a costume. He was about to learn, very quickly, how wrong he was on all counts. He got closer now, right up into the guard's personal space. Close enough to see the perfect crease in the uniform trousers, the faint scent of boot polish, the tiny pores on the man's skin beneath the helmet strap. Sentinel Jones remained utterly still. Didn't even seem to register Alex's presence inches away. His gaze remained fixed on some distant point, unwavering. It was almost creepy how still he was, like a predator waiting, conserving energy. "See?" Alex whispered loudly back to his mates, leaning in towards the guard's shoulder as if sharing a secret. "Told you? Nothing. Probably stuffed." Gaz snickered nervously. Tom just groaned and covered his eyes. And then Alex did it. Reaching out with a theatrical flourish, grinning like an idiot, he clapped Sentinel Jones firmly on the shoulder nearest him. A solid, deliberate contact. "All right, mate." Alex slurred jovially, maybe giving the shoulder a little squeeze. "Tough gig, eh? Standing out here all day?" For the tiniest fraction of a second, nothing happened. Alex's hand rested there. His grin was wide. Gaz started to laugh properly. Then the world exploded for Alex. It wasn't anger. It wasn't a shove or a punch. It was pure, blindingly fast, practiced technique. Sentinel Jones reacted instantly, triggered by the physical contact. One moment, Alex's hand was on the scarlet-clad shoulder. The absolute next moment, the guard moved with a speed that seemed impossible for someone who'd been so still. There was a blur of movement. Scarlet uniform, white glove, maybe the glint of polished metal. Alex felt his own momentum used against him. His arm, the one on the shoulder, was suddenly twisted, in a way that wasn't painful exactly, but utterly controlling. His balance vanished instantly. He felt a solid impact against his legs, a perfectly executed leg sweep. And then the ground rushed up to meet him with brutal, shocking force. Whoomph! The air rushed out of his lungs in a painful gasp. He landed hard on his back, the paving stones unforgiving. Stars momentarily flashed behind his eyes. 1 second he was the jokester, the center of attention, laughing. The next, he was flat on his back, winded, staring up at the sky, utterly bewildered, the laughter replaced by a stunned silence from his mates and sharp gasps from the surrounding crowd. The joke wasn't funny anymore. Not even slightly. The silence after Alex hit the deck was deafening for a second. Gaz's laughter died in his throat, his mouth hanging open. Tom, who'd had his eyes covered, peeked through his fingers, his face instantly draining of color when he saw Alex sprawled on the pavement. The tourists who'd been watching gasped again, some instinctively backing away further, others fumbling with their phones, perhaps now recording the aftermath instead of the joke. Alex lay there for a moment, just trying to get his breath back. The impact had knocked the wind right out of him. His back hurt, his head spun slightly. Mostly, though, he felt a profound sense of shock and confusion. What the hell just happened? He'd barely touched the bloke. He blinked, trying to focus. Sentinel Jones wasn't standing over him menacingly. Instead, the guard had instantly, fluidly reset himself. He was no longer in the rigid, at-ease ceremonial pose. He was now in a defensive stance, body slightly angled, rifle held differently. Maybe not pointing directly at anyone, but certainly no longer just a ceremonial accessory. It was now clearly positioned as a tool, ready for use if needed. His eyes, no longer fixed on some distant point, were now actively scanning the immediate area, assessing, alert. The transformation from statue to ready soldier was instantaneous and chilling. He hadn't wasted a single movement. The takedown had been purely defensive, a protocol executed, not an angry retaliation. Then, more movement. Almost as quickly as the takedown had happened, 2 more figures in similar, smart uniforms appeared, seemingly materializing from doorways or melting out of the crowd. They moved toward Sentinel Jones and Alex with calm, purposeful strides. One knelt briefly beside Alex, checking if he was seriously hurt, while the other spoke quietly to Sentinel Jones, who gave a curt nod, never taking his eyes off the surrounding area. "All right there, sir. Can you sit up?" The kneeling security officer asked Alex, his voice neutral but firm. Alex groaned, pushing himself up onto his elbows, his head still swimming a bit. What the bloody hell was that for?" he managed to gasp out, looking indignantly towards Sentinel Jones. "I barely touched him. It was just a laugh. The officer helping him didn't answer the question directly. Just take it easy, sir. Let's get you up. He helped Alex sit, then stand, albeit unsteadily. Alex felt a sharp pain in his shoulder where he'd landed, and his ego felt like it had been run over by a bus. The second security officer, who looked like he might be a supervisor, now addressed Alex directly. His face was stern, professional, zero tolerance radiating from him. Sir, are you aware that initiating physical contact with a sentinel on duty is a serious breach of protocol and potentially constitutes assault? Assault? Alex spluttered, genuinely shocked now. It was a joke, a bit of banter. I just tapped his shoulder. You deliberately approached the sentinel, ignored the clear expectation of maintaining distance, and physically grabbed him, sir. The supervisor stated flatly, his voice leaving no room for argument. Regardless of your perceived intent, that action is interpreted as a potential threat and triggers an immediate defensive response from the sentinel. They are highly trained in defensive tactics for precisely this reason, to protect themselves, their equipment, and their post from unauthorized contact or interference. Gaz and Tom had cautiously approached now, looking pale and sobered up remarkably quickly. Look, officer, Tom started, his voice shaky. He's an idiot. He'd had a few beers. He didn't mean any harm, honestly. It was just a stupid prank. The supervisor turned his cool gaze on Tom. A stupid prank that involved physically accosting a member of the armed forces on active duty at a protected site. Do you understand the potential security implications here? Do you understand that Sentinel Jones was following his training to neutralize a perceived physical threat? He shook his head slightly. This isn't a playground. Actions have consequences. He turned back to Alex, who was now leaning against a pillar, looking dazed and increasingly worried. Sentinel Jones acted appropriately and according to protocol. You, sir, initiated unwarranted physical contact. We will need you to come with us to make a formal statement. Depending on that statement and Sentinel Jones's report, the police may wish to speak with you further regarding potential charges. Police? Charges. Alex felt that cold dread again, similar to how he felt when facing a massive hangover, but 100 times worse. This wasn't just getting thrown on the ground and laughed at by his mates. This was serious trouble. He looked over at Sentinel Jones, who was still standing alert, a silent, disciplined figure who had, in a split second, demonstrated the very real power behind the ceremonial facade. The guard wasn't a statue. He wasn't a joke. He was a trained professional who had reacted exactly as he was supposed to when someone crossed a fundamental line. And Alex, the loudmouth joker, had just found out what happens when you treat serious business like a game. The laughter had well and truly stopped. The walk to the security office was quiet. Humiliating. Gaz and Tom trailed behind, looking awkward and subdued. A few tourists openly pointed and whispered. Alex just focused on putting one foot in front of the other, his shoulder throbbing, his head pounding, partly from the fall, partly from the dawning realization of how badly he'd messed up. The security office was functional, plain. No fancy wallpaper here, just desks, computers, filing cabinets. The supervisor, whose name turned out to be Mr. Davies, seriously, was everyone named Davies, sat Alex down while another officer brought him a plastic cup of water. Right, mister. Davies consulted a note. Mr. Alex Carter. Let's be absolutely clear about what happened out there. You chose, despite the obvious visual cues and likely the advice of your friends, to approach a sentinel on duty. You then chose to make physical contact by grabbing his shoulder. It was just a pat, a friendly gesture. Alex mumbled, avoiding eye contact. Mr. Carter, Davies said, his voice patient but firm, like explaining something for the 10th time. Imagine you're at work, concentrating. Someone comes right up into your personal space, ignores the fact you're busy, and physically grabs you. Even if they say, all right, mate. How would you feel? Unsettled? Threatened? Now imagine your job involves standing perfectly still for hours, being constantly watched, potentially being a target, and carrying equipment that needs protecting. Any unexpected physical contact in that scenario has to be treated as a potential threat. It's drilled into these sentinels from day one. He leaned forward slightly. Sentinel Jones didn't throw you to the ground because he was angry, Mr. Carter. He executed a standard defensive maneuver designed to instantly neutralize physical contact and create distance, allowing him to reassess the situation. It's about safety. His safety. The safety of the public. The security of the post. His reaction was textbook. Your action was ill-advised, to put it mildly. Alex swallowed hard. Hearing it laid out like that, it sounded less like a joke gone wrong, and more like him being a complete and utter numpty. So, what happens now? He asked quietly. You'll make a full statement detailing your version of events. Davies explained. Sentinel Jones will file his official report. We will review any available CCTV footage. Based on all that, a decision will be made. Given that you initiated physical contact, which could technically be viewed as common assault, the police will certainly be informed. They may wish to interview you, caution you, or potentially even charge you. Charge me? For assault? Alex felt sick. But I didn't assault him. It was a joke. The intent might have been a joke in your mind, Mr. Carter. Davies sighed. But the action was making unwanted physical contact with a soldier on duty. The law can be quite blunt about that sort of thing. It often focuses on the action itself, not the intention behind it, especially when security personnel are involved. He gestured to the door where a police constable had just appeared. They're here now. I suggest you cooperate fully and honestly. It's your best course of action. The police interview felt surreal. Sitting in another bland room, explaining to a patient but clearly unimpressed PC how a few pints and a stupid dare led to him grabbing a soldier's shoulder and getting decked for his troubles. He emphasized again and again it was a joke. He meant no harm. He was incredibly sorry. The PC listened, took notes, and explained that while his remorse was noted, the incident report would still be filed, and the Crown Prosecution Service might review it for potential charges of common assault or a public order offence. He received an official caution, a formal warning that would be kept on record, but wasn't technically a criminal conviction unless he messed up again. He was eventually released, shaken, bruised, and utterly humiliated. Gaz and Tom were waiting, looking sheepish. The rest of the lads' weekend was a write-off. The mood was ruined. Gaz tried to make light of it later. Well, you got a story to tell, eh? But it fell flat. Even he seemed to realize how close Alex had come to serious trouble. Tom just kept shaking his head, muttering, "Told you not to be a nutter." Walking past the same spot the next day, from a safe distance on the other side of the road, Alex saw another guard standing sentinel. Identical uniform, identical stillness. But Alex saw him differently now. Not as a statue, not as a joke target, but as a highly trained professional doing a demanding job, ready to react instantly if someone was stupid enough to cross the line. He saw the invisible bubble of protocol and discipline around him, and this time he respected it. He'd learned his lesson. The hard way. His shoulder ached, his pride was battered, and he had an official police caution to his name. All because he couldn't resist pushing a joke too far. Couldn't see the difference between a bit of harmless banter and physically interfering with someone doing a serious job. Some jokes just aren't funny, he realized, especially when they involve grabbing soldiers who are trained to put you on your backside before you can even register what's happening. Maybe next time he'd just stick to laughing with his mates, not trying to get laughs at someone else's expense. Especially when that someone else is wearing a uniform and standing very, very still. You just never know what protocol you might accidentally violate.